Good evening and welcome to Adminchat. We're delighted that you've joined us this evening, and today I have Amanda Johnson with us. Amanda has just won the VA Training Provider of the Year award for the third time, and she has been a champion of VAs for years. But Amanda, welcome first of all. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Well, the first question I really wanted to ask you was, you don't seem to have come into the VA profession in a traditional sort of way. Can you talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with VAs in the first place?
Of course. So I've actually been in the VA profession for about 7 years now. My background, though, was I spent 23 years in the Royal Navy. So I joined the Royal Navy as a junior rate, worked my way up through the ranks, doing various jobs of PA and admin in a pay office and HR and all sorts of things. And then in 1997, I was lucky enough to become an officer, and I worked my way up through the ranks of officer. And I left in 2012 and launched my own VA business, and then went into VA coaching and training thereafter.
Wow. And I know that you have just been nominated for an incredible award. You're a semi-finalist, in fact, aren't you? It's the Ex-Armed Forces Award, and you're Champion of Women category.
That's right. So the Armed Forces, or the Ex-Armed Forces Business Awards, this is their second year of running. And yes, I'm hugely humbled and very proud, actually, to be a semi-finalist in this category. So, yeah, hugely exciting.
What does that say, do you think?
For me, what I love about it is the fact that it recognises that the VA industry is predominantly female. If I look at my client base, 97% of them are females, so very small male population. But also what I love the fact is I do a lot of work with military veterans and military spouses, because the PA profession is great, and we've got lots of military and EA profession. We've got lots of military spouses in that profession. But what we're finding more and more is, because of the military commitments, it needs to be a portable career. And actually, so military spouses make brilliant VAs because of that portability. So it's quite exciting for them, as well as me, sort of thing.
Now, I know that you took over the company from the wonderful Carmen McDougall. How did that come about?
So back in 2012, I did the VA training course that I now sell. After 18 months, I was runner-up in VA of the year. And then at that point, I became a licensed trainer for Carmen. I was actually Carmen's VA. I became a licensed trainer. And then Carmen decided she was going to retire from the industry completely. And so it made sense for me, actually, because I'd already invested in being the licensed trainer, to buy the company from Carmen. Now, actually, I'd been coaching, mentoring and training people throughout my military career. So it was a natural progression. And although originally I was probably going to wait a few more years before I went that route, the timing was just perfect.
Yes, now
I was going to say, so I ran my doing business alongside the training business for about 3 years. So, and even to this day, I still look after one business, which is actually my husband's business. I'm pointing because his office is next door to mine. But I'm still sort of do company secretary work for him. I do all his social media, his marketing, which keeps my hand in on the various tools and technology that's out there. Because the only way I can coach, train and mentor others is if I'm still around the industry and know what the issues are and how to do things. Otherwise, I'd become stale and stagnant.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you had a terrible tragedy in your life a few years back. How do you think that has shaped you? Do you want to talk to us a little bit about it?
Okay, so in 2008, my children died. I had twins who were born extremely prematurely, and it rocked my world. It made me realise that life is too short. And during that period of immense grief, I did what lots and lots of people do during grief, is I went out and spent money. And I spent money on things like double glazing, gas central heating, stuff that we needed to do. And it was during that period I realised that the good tradesmen I could never ever get hold of. They were out doing what they did best, and they were rubbish at admin. And at that point I thought, do you know what? You need admin support on a pay-as-you-go basis as and when you need it. And I thought I'd created the VA industry. I was very naive. You need to remember that I was institutionalized. I was in a military career. We didn't use virtual assistants or things like that. So I thought I'd created this whole brand new industry that I could go out there and, I'm going to say save the world, but save small businessmen from doing stuff that they really didn't need to be doing. And so it was only when I was lucky enough to take voluntary redundancy that I started to do a little bit more research. And I spoke to an insurance guy and said, look, I want to do this. And he said to me, well, that's a VA. And I said, a VA? And he said, yeah. He said, that's what it's called. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, that thing that you want to do, pay as you go, admin support, as and when you need it, it's got a label, it's a VA. And I'm like, oh. And then I came across people like the lovely Carmen, and came across Lilac Bullock, who was also one of the main trainers in the UK at that time. And from there, the rest is sort of history, in the sense of my career in the VA world has just continued to build and grow.
Can you talk to me a little bit, because it leads on nicely from that, about the history of the VA industry? Because I think there's a lot of confusion around what a VA actually is and what it isn't. Okay.
So I think we can actually say that people have worked remotely for many years. So if you think back to, I remember when I was a child, there was always ladies who worked from home, who did small businesses, typing, and whether it was their bookkeeping, whether it was their business paperwork, making sure somebody's invoices was done, quotes, templates, you name it. People did that work remotely, even back in the 60s and 70s. But what we've had for the last sort of 25 years, and I can't remember the exact date that Kathy Thomas set up, and there's a couple of other ladies in Australia who set up a support organisation that said, do you know what, we're going to call this a title. We're going to call it the VA industry. When I train people or I speak about the VA industry, I say actually it is a little bit like a job. It's a job title. It's a label, because nowadays it encompasses so much. It encompasses the remote worker. So if we look at PricewaterhouseCoopers, they talk about using virtual assistants, but in their case, they're employed PAs who work 4 days a week virtually and 1 day a week in office, and they're supporting their staff on a remote basis, and they call them a VA. Now, I'm never going to go and argue with them and say they're wrong. It's just different to how the self-employed person who works remotely from their office, so somewhere like my office, supporting small business owners, doing their traditional business administration, whether it's personal lifestyle administration, whether it's social media management, whether it's technical website management, or sort of supporting summits, calls like this. There's a whole variety of things that VAs do. And so what I would say to people though is, if somebody says they can do all of it, I would worry. What you will find is people can do pockets of it, or they might have dabbled in bits, but it doesn't mean they're an expert in all of it. So it is about looking at skill sets and strengths to see what people can actually do.
Yes, and I think you find more and more, don't you, that the assistants that have strengths in certain areas kind of band together with other assistants, other VAs that have strengths in other areas, so that actually they can work together to give a full service.
Yep, so it is about that collaboration and working together to help clients or help businesses with what they need. So it's less about the VA and it's more about what does the small business owner need. So when I was still being a VA, I had a copywriter that worked as part of my team. She was a virtual assistant, but her speciality was in copywriting, and she could write for particular industries. whereas I didn't enjoy writing. And so it was much better to use her to write about that client's sector, to write their social media content and things like that, and help them. Now, there will be some sort of purists out there who say to me, Amanda, that's not being a VA. And I'm like, actually, it's about helping the end user get what they need. And so if that's the right thing for them, that's the right way to go. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, yes. So if I'm sitting as a PA or an EA or whatever I happen to be in an office, what's likely to make me decide to become a VA?
Well, there tends to be 3 types of categories of people that decide they want to go into the VA industry. There are those who are looking for a second career, and that might be because they've got a young family or elderly relatives that they want to care for. It might be that they've had enough of commuting into the city or wherever they work. It might be a little bit like me, where I had young children, and I never ever told anybody in the beginning I had young children because I wanted to be seen as a business owner first and foremost. But actually, I wanted that freedom and flexibility to be there if I needed to be there. So those could be some of the reasons. It could be that somebody's been made redundant, and actually they see this as a new opportunity to do something else. One of the reasons I did it is I wanted less stress. How naive that was of me. I didn't want any staff, any budgets, any appraisals. I didn't want any in-office politics, any of those things that you sometimes get when you work for a large organisation. And now I realise actually I have a whole different heap of challenges. I may not have staff appraisals, but I still have budgets and I still have things that I need to manage. So that's the first category, somebody who's looking for a second career. The second category is somebody who only wants to do something for about 5 to 10 years. So they may be a maturer person who no longer wants to work for a large organisation or even a small organisation, but they want that freedom and flexibility to still earn enough money that they want to earn, but not necessarily be committed to a 9 till 5 job.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's linked to pensions, it can be linked to a whole number of things. So I have a number of ladies who are at that mature age. And then the third category is somebody who wants to earn an additional income, and it might be they're working Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 in a normal traditional role, but actually for whatever reason they want to earn slightly more money, and they decide to actually work evenings and weekends as a virtual assistant.
I was going to ask you about that. So from your answer, yes, you can do both at the same time. Is that what you would advise if someone was starting out as a virtual assistant?
Absolutely. There is no point giving up the day job until you've got enough clients that covers your income. I don't want people to get into debt or suddenly give up their day job and think that clients are just going to walk through the door and work with you, because actually it can take 6 to 9 months to get a decent level of client base and to be earning the sort of figures you might want to be earning. And some people say to me, oh, can I replace my income tomorrow? No, you can't. You've got to, it's no different to doing anything else. You've got to build the relationships. You've got to do that know, like, trust. You've got to be out there networking and talk to people. And people have got to be ready to buy when they're ready to buy. You can't just, I was explaining to somebody this morning on a coaching call, I can't go under my desk and open the box that says new client and, oh, here you are, have it. It would be so nice to be able to do that for people, but I can't.
No, and I think it really is one of the biggest mistakes that a new VA makes, isn't it? That they think, well, I'm an excellent EA, and so therefore I'm going to go and set up a VA business, because it isn't just about doing the EA role. You are a business owner, so you have to be able to sell and market and do figures and all those other things, right?
Yeah. So first and foremost, they're actually the business owner. So the way I quite often describe it is draw a triangle. At the top of the triangle, write CEO. Bottom left, write shareholder. Bottom right, doer. And actually, you are all three of those roles. But in order to get those clients for your EA doer role to do, you've got to be the CEO and go and market your business, know what your pricing is, talk to people, build the relationships. And then when somebody comes on board, yeah, you in your comfort zone as EA can do the work, but you've got to do all of those things. Actually, Lizzie, just thinking about that sort of part-time, can you do it evenings and weekends and things like that? You can, but you still have to make sure the fundamentals are in place. So you still need to have insurance, you still need to have contracts, you'll still need to tell HMRC that you're earning this self-employed income. You can't just sort of be employed by day and earn the extra money and squirrel it away for the work that you do evenings and weekends. You still have to see yourself as a business owner for that element of the work.
Absolutely. And what do you think are the biggest mistakes that people make when they're setting up as a VA?
Selling rather than building relationships. So in this industry, for me, it is about know, like, trust, build the relationship. People buy people. So that's the first one. By thinking of yourself as the doer and not the CEO, because most PAs, EAs, etc., we are brilliant at making sure our boss is in the right place at the right time with the right piece of paper, wearing the right things, knowing who they're going to meet. But actually, in a case of being a VA, you are that boss. You are your own boss. So you've got to make sure that you are showing up in the right place. So whether that's social media, whether that's an industry event, whether that's networking, with the right things to say and know who you're going to talk to. So the biggest mistake I see people making is there's an assumption that it will be easy. And it's not easy.
No, absolutely not. Could you possibly talk to me a little bit about being lonely? Because whenever I talk to anybody about being an VA, the thing they say to me most is, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I'd be at home all on my own.
Do you know what? I've never been lonely as a VA.
Me neither.
And that people say to me, how is that? And it's like, well, so I'm going to use the example of when I was VAing. On a Monday, I used to have a check-in call with all my clients. So I'm talking to them about what work is in the diary for the week ahead, what things do they want me to work on. Because the more I talk to my clients, the more work they would pass my way. So therefore, actually, I would get paid more because I'd be doing more work for them. So that's one thing. I would be out networking. So actually, I'm leaving the house and actually talking to people. Or I would be holding virtual one-to-ones with people. So I might be doing networking with people I've met in a social media group, and we would be using either Zoom or Skype to talk to each other. I would also be out and about at events and things like that. I have never, ever been lonely. Sometimes I almost wish I didn't have to go out because you can sit in the office and get some work done. The talking to people is the bit that distracts you. But also, you also have social media, and social media is a great way of building relationships. It's a great way of getting clients, actually, but also it's that peer support. So it's groups like yours, Executive Secretary Magazine's Facebook group. It's so supportive of each other that you build relationships. And if somebody's having a bad day, you can go in there and talk to people.
Sure.
So one of the other things I run communities for virtual assistants or those thinking of becoming a virtual assistant, and they spend time talking to each other, answering questions that some people might think are silly, but other people say, do you know what? Been there. I know how you're feeling. Let's chat. And that is, so I've never ever felt lonely doing this.
That's really wonderful, really wonderful. And of course, the other question that I always get asked is, can I make money out of it? And how much should I be charging?
Okay, so there are people who will shout at me for saying this, but the VA, and the way I will caveat my answer is, the VAs I train charge between £25 an hour and £35 an hour for ad hoc tasking. So, and that's seen as sort of industry standard. Now, there will be some people who suck teeth and go, oh, can't do that. That feels expensive. What I would say to people is I tracked my time to the minute. So if a task took 8 minutes, a client is paying 8 minutes worth of that £25. Or if a task took an hour and 8 minutes, they paid an hour and 8 minutes worth of that time. And the big thing with that is somebody isn't paying for me to check the internet or go to the toilet or make coffee or doing anything else. They're only paying for the work that the virtual assistant does. Now, how much can a VA earn? How hard do they want to work? So it all depends how many hours they want to work, sort of for clients as well as within their own business, so that marketing piece and all of the rest. But if I said to you, by year 3 of my VA business, I was turning over 80k. Now, people say, oh, that's a lot. What I need to remind people is turnover is a vanity figure. It wasn't necessarily what I was earning from that by the time you do the tax, the national insurance, paying my team, because actually it wasn't just me when it was 80k. I had a small team around me. So yes, it can replicate a decent income. Of course it can. There's lots of VAs replicating decent incomes, but it takes time. It's not a start business today, earn that tomorrow.
Totally. And I mean, I know a lot of VA businesses do get bigger. I mean, I know, for example, that Washa Joshi, who is in Dubai, has a whole team of virtual assistants, and she now sits at the top and finds work for all of them.
Yep.
That looks like a very sustainable business model to me.
And that's one of the, so what you'll find is, it's one of the great models actually, but what you'll find is lots of VAs will start out on their own, and then they'll start to work with associates. So that's the skills that complement their business. Or it will be where actually you've got too much work for one person and you bring somebody else in to help deliver the work. And that's the model I worked. So at one stage I had up to 15 associates within my VA business, but I probably only used 7 or 8 on a regular basis. Some of them had very distinct niches and they looked after very distinct type of projects or distinct clients for particular tasking. But the team as a whole was about 15. But if you look at somebody like Rebecca Newingham at Get Ahead VA agency, Rebecca started out on her own, then she took a small team, and now she has an agency with a decent number of people. So there's no one size fits all. And actually with Rebecca, she's now franchising that. So that's another model again. But it's not all happened overnight. It's taken 7-8 years to go from being an individual through to having an agency of staff.
Mm. So what, in your opinion, makes an exceptional VA?
Somebody who realises they are first and foremost the business owner, who has the skills that their clients need. And so it's about knowing what their skills are, and that will vary from VA to VA, selling what they're good at and not selling the things that they're rubbish at. So it's being comfortable in what they excel at. So there are VAs out there who will spend a lot of time almost coaching and mentoring their clients in how they do business development stuff, because they can be one step ahead. And it's about helping your clients get to where they want to be. If you want to offer traditional PA support, diary, email management, things like that, there is a place for it. But if you want to get involved in business development with your clients, there's a place for that as well.
Wonderful. Now, I see that the VA industry tends to be in pockets around the world. And I'm interested in your opinion on that, because I know that obviously there's a very strong VA industry in the UK and in Australia and in America, but I don't see so much in the rest of the world. Why do you think that is?
It's growing, actually. I think technology is the big player in that. So Australia and America were the leaders originally, I would suggest, in the VA industry, followed by us. But what we're now seeing is people, because the global workforce is so spread around the world, that we're seeing individuals around the world tap into that and realise that. So I work with ladies, a number of ladies in France, Germany, Luxembourg, Holland. I have to tick them off my fingers because I'm like, I can't remember some of the countries. Greece, I've got 3 ladies in Greece. I've worked with ladies in Cyprus. I've worked with ladies in some of the other Mediterranean locations. And it's more from organisations like yourself being around the world, people like the IMA being around the world, and other professional admin organisations that are sharing our message, I suppose, that's allowing people to realise, there is another way of doing this. And I think that things like the internet and technology has massively helped us.
Totally. And in fact, you mentioned PwC earlier, and the fact that now they are employing a large majority, actually, of their assistants as VAs, so that they work from home. I mean, I think we're starting to see a trend, are we not, where businesses are starting to recognise that having people working virtually makes sense from a business point of view. It means there's no commute. It means that they don't have to pay the overheads. Is that what you're seeing as well, Amanda? Is it suddenly growing as an industry?
It is, but also if you look at, there's a book, it's called Remote, which is on my bookshelf there. Organisations like IBM, some of the banking organisations, they've realised they don't need somebody sat immediately outside the boss's door, because invariably the boss isn't sat in his office. He is travelling around the world doing whatever he does. So why have somebody sat there on the off chance that he's going to be in the office for the day? It's that virtual, flexible workforce.
It makes so much more sense. I mean, Matthew and I work almost totally virtually. It used to be when he lived around the corner that he would come to the office every day, but now he lives, down near Brighton. It doesn't make any sense for him to come here every day, especially not when I'm travelling so much.
No. And there'll be times when you say, actually, a face-to-face meeting is appropriate. So my main client when I was VAing was based up near Stansted. I'm down in the sort of Dorset, Hampshire border I was, and I would go up once a month for a face-to-face meeting, which tied in with an event that he ran, because I used to be part of the event as a member, but also I would use that time for that face-to-face connectivity, and he would say, oh, can we do this? Can we do that? And we would work together as a team. But that was our choice. That wasn't a requirement of the job. It was our choice to do that.
Yes, fabulous. I want to go back to you for a little bit, if that's all right.
Of course it is.
What does your average day look like?
Chaos. So my average day, bearing in mind I don't VA for clients anymore, my average day is up by 6:30. I have 2 young children, and so between 6:30 and 8:30 I am mum. I might check my social media, I might check my emails. I try not to, but invariably I do. But I am mum for those first couple of hours. It's spelling, it's homework, it's getting them out the door. I get back from school run. I have 15, 20 minutes or so where I call it busy time. So normally that's eating my breakfast, putting the washing on, the dishwasher on, the stuff. And then I'm at my desk by 9 o'clock. And then for me nowadays, I coach, mentor, or train throughout the day, depending what's what. I might do some networking, some face-to-face work with clients. And then depending what time of day my children finish, I pick them up from school, and then I'm mum for a couple of hours. And then I start work again, most days about 8 o'clock in the evening, once the children are in bed, and that's either being active in my communities, so because that's where I get my clients from, so I need to be active in those communities, or I might be running a training webinar, or I might be running a coaching call or a discovery call, those sorts of things. But that's my typical day nowadays. Chaotic. It's juggling. It's like anything. I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm the laundry fairy, I'm the person that fills the dishwasher. It happens. It's no different to any other business owner, I think, at times.
It must have been phenomenal to have won that VA training award for the third time, Amanda, this year.
Yes, I am. Actually, I was really humbled because I thought you can't do it 3 years in a row, surely. But that just, what I hope that shows is how much I love what I do, because I give it everything. Because what I loved even more, actually, though, is 2 of my clients won awards. The day I won VA Trainer of the Year, 2 of my clients won awards. And then to me, that's really showing that it's working, because I'm here to help them get to where they want to be. So yes, it's nice for me and I love it. And my stars are up on my bookcase. So I've got 4 of them up there. But it's actually making a difference to people's lives and people's businesses. That's the important part.
So where do you see the business heading?
My business, I want to keep doing what I do. So at the beginning of this year, I did a bit of a reevaluation exercise, which is what I tell my clients to do. And I realised I was trying to be something to everybody. And actually, I realised that didn't make my heart sing. So what I did is I stripped back all of the non-essential stuff and said, no, look, what are you best at? What do you do best? I couldn't think of the right phrase. And I took it back to keeping it simple. So I run a training course, I coach and mentor, and then I have my communities, and then I run sort of 2-day workshops to help new VAs. And I was like, stop trying to do all the rest of it. The rest of it is swimming in somebody else's lane. And actually, no, swim in your own lane and enjoy what you do. And that to me is a bit. So it's about continuing to do that. I don't set out and say, oh, I must train X number of people. It's about training the right people or helping the right people get to where they want to go.
I think that's a wonderful place to end it. Amanda Johnson, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucy.